Brochs are among Scotland's most impressive prehistoric buildings, the large majority of them dating from around 100 BC to 100 AD, the time of the Roman invasion of Britain. There are over 500 known sites of these Iron Age structures in Scotland, but it is only in the Highlands and Islands that the Brochs are to be found in any numbers. Huge windowless towers, ingeniously engineered, they represent the pinnacle of dry stone wall building and remain one of the finest construction achievements of Iron Age Europe. Brochs were almost certainly originally roofed and would have had several timber floors known as galleries. Most likely, Brochs combined a number of possible uses, such as defensive fortifications and farm buildings, and served differing purposes in different ages. However, that most Brochs on the Scottish mainland sprung up during a very short period of time, coinciding with the Roman invasion of Britain, is surely not chance, when you consider that the best weapons at that time were swords, bows and spears. They were more than adequate as defensive forts. Were they successful? Some may claim they had poor defensive qualities, but however, Scotland was never conquered by the Romans, despite 4 military campaigns. The densest concentrations of Brochs are in Sutherland, Caithness, the Orkney Islands and the Shetland Islands, with a greater number in the Outer Hebrides, from the west coast of Lewis to the Isle of Skye. There are also a few scattered around the borders in Dumfries and Galloway and near Stirling. With much still to be learned about Scottish people at this time and the effect of the Romans landing in England in 55 BC had on them, the origins of the Brochs remain a subject of continuing research and a lively debate. The best preserved Brochs that lie on the Scottish mainland are the 2 Brochs at Glenelg, on the west coast of Scotland, between Mallaig and the Carl of Loch Olsh. The 2 Brochs are known as Duntelv and Duntrodan. Although not complete, they have one side wall that remain more or less the full height of the once built Broch. Edin's Broch is one of the most southerly broch survivals, which are more typically associated with northern Scotland. It is 4 miles north of the town of Duns. It stands on the north-east slope of Cockburn Law, just above a fairly steep slope down to the White Adder water. It is one of the most unique broch sites in Scotland, being built within the confines of a corner of an old Iron Age hill fort, which presumably predates the broch. The hill fort consists of a double rampart and ditches enclosing an oval area some 135 metres by 75 metres. The entrance was on the west side. A large circular structure, or roundhouse, in the centre of the fort, close to the broch, may have been the most important building before the broch's construction. The broch has an external diameter of 28 metres and an internal diameter of 17 metres. This is unusually large compared to the typical Highland broch, and suggests that it may not have been as tall as the northern brochs. The walls of the broch survive to a height of between 1 to 1.8 metres. The entrance passage is on the east side and has 2 guard chambers flanking the doorway. The interior of the broch has 3 intramural cells. The cell on the south side has the remains of a stone stairway at its northern end, which presumably rose to a wall head. The broch was cleared by antiquarians in the 19th century. The relics recovered were donated to the National Museum of Scotland. These included a stone spindle wall, a piece of jet ring, an amber bead, bones, an oyster shell, and a fragment of a glass bracelet. 2 copper ingots, one of which is now in the National Museum, were apparently found with a metal detector inside the broch in 1976. The ingots were derived from local copper mines and may have been an important source of wealth for the inhabitants. An archaeological survey and sample excavation was conducted in 1996. A few artefacts, including coarse pottery and a stone spindle wall, were recovered. On the western side of Scotland, brochs are also called duns. Dunskeag is an oval Iron Age dun fort overlooking West Loch Tarbert in Kentire, Argyll and Bute. The dun is about 35 feet in diameter, with an outer wall of 13 feet thick, and has a single entrance. This is one of the best preserved on the western Scottish mainland. On the Outer Hebridean island of North Uist, there are many causewayed, Iron Age, roundhouse broch dun sites, believed to be dating back to the Iron Age. However, a similar site on the Isle of Lewis, on a recent TV programme, evidence suggests that one of these Iron Age sites may be even older, 2,000 years older, dating to the Stone Age. However, these sites were almost certainly used during the Iron Age period, almost certainly used as a means of defence, being located in the middle of these loch sites, linked with a causeway. Many of these ancient sites lie in ruin, with stone piled up in rubble. However, Some of these sites can clearly be seen a curved round wall up to about a metre in height, which is clear enough evidence to suggest that these were once Broch-like structures as previously seen. Carloway Broch lies on the west coast of the Isle of Lewis. It is the best preserved broch of the Outer Hebrides, believed to have been built in the 1st century AD and was used as a stronghold up until 1601 by the Morrisons of Ness. Over the following century, the walls having been destroyed and lied in a ruinous state before becoming one of the first officially protected monuments in Scotland in 1882. There are many broch remains on the Isle of Skye. This is Dunbeag. It is typical of many broch remains in Scotland. Here can be seen the broch's main entrance, flanked by 2 cells. This broch, Dun Dornagill, is located in Sutherland in the Scottish Northern Highlands on the eastern bank of the Strathmore River, south of Ben Hope, the most northern mountain in Scotland, over 3,000 feet. The walls of the broch survive to a height of 2 to 3 metres around the circumference of the broch, but at the doorway the height rises to nearly 7 metres. There is a massive triangular lintel above the entrance. Noster is a scattered rural crofting township situated in Caithness. This broch at Noster in Caithness is located 7 miles south of John of Groats. It was first excavated by Sir Francis Tress Barry in about 1900. This one was probably built between about 200 BC and 200 AD and reused during the Pictish period, AD 300 to 800. Despite being located right next to the sea, the rocks that the broch stand on lie on hard Caithness flagstones, which over the years have been used to make paving slabs across the country. The Orkney and Shetland Isles have a wealth of ancient historic sites, some of the best in the British Isles, with many new ancient site finds in recent years. The main Iron Age sites on Orkney are the brochs of Gurness and Midhow, located along either side of the N-Hullo Sound, with Glenelg Broch on mainland Orkney and Midhow on the Isle of Rousay. Being located on the coast reflects the importance of the sea for transport and food during the Iron Age period. We first take a look at the mainland Broch of Glenelg. In this view can clearly be seen the Broch and the Broch village, a series of roundhouse remains surrounding the Broch. Excavation of the Broch began in 1929. A feature just outside the main Broch site is the Shamrock House, of late Iron Age or Pictish date. It is called the Shamrock House for obvious reasons, as it is shaped like a shamrock. It was moved from a location south of the Broch to allow excavation of underlying ground. The Vikings from western Norway who settled in Orkney after AD 800 often used the mounds of earlier settlement sites as burial places. This was the case at Glenelg. In the 9th and 10th centuries, before they were converted to Christianity, the Vikings buried their dead with grave goods to accompany them to the next world. Although only one complete grave was found at Glenelg, the excavators found human bones and other Viking objects elsewhere on the site, suggesting that the Vikings were buried here also. One complete grave was that of a woman. The grave goods buried with her included a sickle blade and a pair of turquoise brooches. Finds from elsewhere on the site included shield bosses usually associated with Viking men. The Broch at Midhow on Rousay has a rather taller entrance passage than most Brochs. The Broch was excavated around the same time as Glenelg. Unlike Glenelg, it has only a small settlement area additional to the Broch, although some structures may have been lost to coastal erosion. As at Glenelg, the interior was crowded with partitions, tanks and hearths, mostly dating to later phases in the use of the Broch Tower. UNESCO World Heritage status has been applied for the following Iron Age sites on Shetland: Jarlshof, Old Scatness and the Broch of Mousa. The settlement at Jarlshof has remains dating back to the Bronze Age, Iron Age, as well as the remains of a Norse Viking settlement. The site includes the remains of a Broch partly eroded by coastal erosion. Iron Age buildings overlie the Bronze Age village, date from the final centuries BC. They include underground stores known as souterrains. Parts of 4 buildings known as wheelhouses date from the 2nd and 3rd centuries AD, survive on the site. 2 of them built within the Broch and its courtyard. Norse Viking longhouse remains can be seen in this aerial view beyond. This is an ancient site like no other, used by settlers from 2500 BC to the 1600s AD. The site was revealed following a storm in 1890. Nearby also lies Old Scatness Broch and village site, lying next to Sunborough Airport, Shetland's main airport. This aerial image was taken using a drone with permission from Sunborough Airport Air Traffic Control. The site consists of Bronze and Iron Age remains. The Broch remains was discovered in 1975, which has been dated to 300 BC. The site was first unearthed during construction work for airport improvements. The site is managed by the Shetland Amenity Trust. The island of Mousa has been uninhabited since the 19th century. It is best known for the Broch of Mousa, an Iron Age round tower, which is the tallest still standing in the world, and amongst the best preserved prehistoric buildings in Europe. One of over 500 brochs throughout Scotland. It is thought to have been constructed circa 100 BC. The site is managed by Historic Scotland. Mousa lies about 1 kilometre off the east coast of mainland Shetland and lies 16 kilometres, about 10 miles north of Old Scatness, as previously seen. According to the tentative list UNESCO application of World Heritage status, the Broch and the environs host the world's largest colony of storm petrels, and nowhere else in the world are petrels so accessible to visitors. The three ancient sites on Shetland, as the crucible of Iron Age Shetland, are certainly worthy of UNESCO World Heritage status, some of the best ancient remains in Britain and Europe.